Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be interviewing a character actor you may remember from a lot of stuff from the late 70s into the mid 80s, who he pretty much got out of acting, but I guess he occasionally still does it, and he's more of an artist now. His name is Peter Fox. Now, you may remember him. He was in such movies as FM and Airport 77, and he was on The Waltons. But the role I'll always remember him for is Dr. Wilson in Night of the Comet, baby. Yes. I finally tracked down another member of the cast of Night of the Comet after having Kathy Stewart on here several times and interviewing Kelly Maroney at Silver Scream Fest. I get to interview somebody else from Night of the Comet next, and I am so frigging excited. It's going to be awesome. Peter Fox. Yeah, we'll find out from his perspective about that movie and everything. It's going to be pretty cool. So, here's my interview with Peter Fox. Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Tommy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tommy. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
Hanging in there.
Well, it's such an honor, sir, because being an old movie and TV buff, I always remembered you as that guy, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Sure.
So, were you always attracted to acting as a child?
No, not really. Any more than most of us like to show off and say, "Look at me," but no more than anybody else. I sort of got into it just because of fate and destiny and that kind of thing. I did some acting in college, but I did not come to California to be an actor.
Mm-hmm. And I take it, though, you went to the movies as a kid?
Oh, sure. I wasn't fanatical about it. I enjoyed going to the movies, but I had a pretty normal Midwestern Chicago background, and going to the movies, I did it once in a while, but it wasn't the big, social thing that it is now, or I guess the media attention to it all was not what was happening back then.
Mm-hmm. And so you're originally from Chicago. Where did you train for acting?
I didn't.
Oh, you're self-taught.
Well, I had a certain personality or persona, and I just went with that. Later on, after I started working, and I was in New York. I used to go to New York in the summertime to get some work, because back then the studios went on hiatus in the summertime, and so I'd go to New York to get where you could still get commercial work and some other stuff. So I took a couple of courses there, but they weren't big time training. Let's put it that way. I just had whatever talent I had came naturally, and I had a certain look, and that was marketable, and that's how it happened.
And did you do theater?
Where?
Oh, anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, I did a couple of hasty pudding shows in college, and but that was more of a goof than anything. But when I came to LA, when I started to get work as an actor, I thought, well, I better prove to myself that I am what I'm claiming to be. And so I did get involved with theater, and eventually I wound up being artistic director at a terrific little equity waiver theater in Los Angeles for 16 years.
Nice.
I did a lot of theater at that point.
Mm-hmm. What year did you move to Los Angeles?
In the fall of 1972.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was around the time my mom almost went to Los Angeles. She had a scholarship to be she had a scholarship for dancing at UCLA, and she had an audition to be a dancer on the Dean Martin show, but my grandmother wouldn't let her go.
Too. She was disappointed, no doubt.
Oh yeah, she still is. She still is, unfortunately.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's full of broken hearts and broken dreams too. Most people that come here don't have the kind of success that I was lucky to have. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anybody's.
I think so much of it is about fate and destiny, and that certainly was the case for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Your first movie was Airport 77?
No, my first movie was Fraternity Row.
Oh, okay.
It was a Paramount movie about a hazing incident back in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't a goofy fraternity movie. It was a serious fraternity movie. Well, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I heard about it. I haven't seen it.
That was my first gig.
Mm-hmm. But then you did do Airport 77, and it's the third in the Airport series. And
actually, I think it's the second. Is it the third? You might be right. I don't know. I thought it was the second.
It is the third because there was Airport 1975, and then 77.
Oh, okay. There you go. No, interestingly enough, there used to be a movie critic in Los Angeles for ABC, and he was a big-time critic because he was the LA movie critic for the network. Mm-hmm. Every year he did a 10 best and 10 worst movies of the year. And that year, in 77, I was on both lists. Fraternity Row was in the 10 best, and Airport 77 was in the 10 worst.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
But at least, I mean, you got to be in a movie with heavyweights like Jack Lemmon and Lee Grant and Joseph Cotton and Olivia d'Havilland and Jimmy Stewart. Did you get any advice from any of those people?
Well, actually, I got I didn't get advice from any of them, but I got to become friends with Jack Lemmon, and so that continued after the movie. He and I both went to Harvard together, and we both had done hasty pudding shows at Harvard, and so we had that connection, and he was just a great guy, and was able to play golf with him, and years later, I taught a film directing class at UCLA Extension, and Jack came to talk to the class for me, and it was just a really nice perk to being in that business. Was if you could meet someone of that stature who was a great guy.
Isn't that great when you don't get disappointed by your idols?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, I think if you're falling prey to idoldom, you can pretty much expect that these people are humans too, and then they're going to disappoint you at some level. Mm-hmm. Nine times out of 10, they're not idols; they're human beings. Exactly.
Then you did the cult classic FM. How was that experience?
That was great. It was on location in Houston, or I guess it was Houston or Dallas. I think it was Houston. And anytime you went on location, it was great fun. Just because they fly you out first class and give you per diem, and I didn't have a large part in the movie, but it was fun. I got to I'd never been to Houston before, for one thing, and it was an okay experience. I enjoyed all of my experiences. Anytime you get hired, it's nice, and like I say, it wasn't a career-making part or anything. It was just nice to have a gig and be on the job, and the movie, I think it did okay. I don't think it was did gangbusters or anything, but
yeah,
it was fun.
I think the reason it's become a cult classic because of the Steely Dan song.
Yeah. Well, there certainly was great music in it, and I did get to see Linda Ronstadt perform in it. And, from that level, it was good. It just my part was not big, so there was a lot of just hanging around and enjoying the moment as opposed to being really involved with the movie itself.
Mm-hmm. And then you got to be on the Waltons, and that must have been a lot of long hours to do a show like that.
Well, it was. Well, at the time, I did it. I was on there for 2 years, and at the time, it was the #1 show in America. Before this was when there were 3 networks. So anytime you're involved with a hit, things generally go pretty well. It's a well-oiled machine. Everybody's happy. We're doing great. It was a great place to show up to work. Walton's Mountain, and the people were secure. They were, they knew they were doing good work in a hit show. And so I replaced John Ritter, who was the Reverend Fordwick.
Mm-hmm.
Then he left to do Three's Company, and so I became the next minister and was there for 2 years, and it was great. They hey, welcome aboard, kid. And the hours weren't too long because there were kids on the set, a lot. And you can't work long hours if there are kids on the set. But occasionally, and it was a well-run show, so they generally didn't go overtime because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it was a well-oiled machine. You probably worked, you worked a normal work day most of the time. But it was fun. It was a great place to go to work.
And was that also after Richard Thomas left?
Was that what? I didn't.
Oh, was that after Richard Thomas left?
Yeah, he had gone, and I think part of the reason they brought me in was my character was supposed to be sort of a chick magnet for the Walton girls, and so partially I think to fill Richard's that void that my character was brought in. So.
Oh, that's cool though. At least you got to do that.
And then I did a couple of reunion shows years later, and Richard was in those, so I got to meet him and know him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I heard he's a nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy. The guy I enjoyed the most was Will Gear. I really would enjoy going to his trailer and hanging out and hearing his stories, fascinating history he had.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know much about Will Gear, you should Google him because he was more than just an actor on the Waltons. He had a long political activist history stretching back to the 30s.
Yeah, I reached out to his daughter, Ellen Gear, to do an interview. Never heard back from her, but I'm a little familiar with his work, other than the Waltons.
Yeah, he was great, and a bigger-than-life personality.
Mm-hmm. Then you did the TV series version of Animal House called Delta House.
Right.
Wow, how did that come to you?
Well, I had done this movie Fraternity Row,
right,
and that sort of got me actually Jack Nicholson's agent. So once I had a good agent, stuff started coming my way, and the producer of Animal House had seen Fraternity Row, which was not a comedy, but he liked my performance, so I came in and auditioned, and this was the part that Tim Matheson played. Otter was his name, and lo and behold, they said, "Yeah, you got the part." So that was a lot of fun because at that time, Animal House was number one movie of the year
Mm-hmm.
and the number one comedy of all time at that point. So, once again, it was riding a wave. And almost all the cast were the same people from the movie, and the writers and producers were the same. They replaced Matheson with me and Belushi with Josh Mostel.
Yeah.
Zero Mostel's son, so.
As much as I love Josh Mostel, he isn't Bluto. John Belushi is.
Well, yeah, you can say that about me not being Tim Matheson either, but, we did our best. They paid us to do it.
Yeah. I'm surprised, though, that Tim Matheson wasn't asked to come back, or if he was, I don't know, but it's just he was on TV a lot in those days.
Yeah, they were all asked to do the TV series, and almost all of them did, except Matheson and Belushi. And, they both went on to bigger careers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, big careers, some of them.
Yeah. So, they made the right choice for them. And it turned out to be the right choice for me, because I got the part.
Mm-hmm. My earliest memory of you was in the Munsters Revenge.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, that was another interesting, I think would have been on David Sheehan's list of, it was, once again, fun, but it was a super goofy, cartoonish, ridiculous plot, movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was fun to do, but when I saw the final product, I thought, man, this was not, I actually did some substitute teaching at one point, and I said, hey, kids, you want to see Mr. Fox in a movie? And they go, yeah. The next day I came, and I thought, well, these are second-grade kids. They'll like the Munsters Revenge. And I put it on, and they were like, whoa, there's Mr. Fox. And literally 10 minutes later, their heads were down, sleeping, bored with it. So that's how ridiculous it was. But, hey, I got to meet Fred Gwynn, who also was a Harvard hasty pudding guy, nice guy, and Sid Caesar, who was, is a giant in showbiz, but, we were involved in something that was just ridiculously silly.
Yeah.
And, there's room for something that's silly and so on and so forth, but it also has to be good. And, they paid me. I don't want to badmouth somebody who paid me, but it just wasn't my for my cup of tea. Put it that way. It's better.
Yeah, I used to watch it every Halloween when I was a kid. I actually watched it. It was on YouTube. I watched it last night and stuff. It is pretty silly.
You're hardcore, man.
Oh yeah, I love bad movies. I do and stuff.
Yeah, they're out there. There's plenty of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What boggles my mind though is that it aired in February of 1981 and not in October.
Yeah, that does boggle my mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just, did the job, collected my paycheck, and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, I'll get a residual from it. Seldom. I think it doesn't have a lot of legs, let's put it that way.
Yeah, it probably doesn't play anymore, like a lot of stuff doesn't, during the holidays and stuff.
Right.
Which is quite sad.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's showbiz.
Yeah. Then you got to work with John Huston in A Minor Miracle.
Yeah, that was a highlight for sure. I have, Jimmy Stewart and Jack Lemmon, John Huston, these guys, were giants in showbiz. And fortunately, I got to stand opposite them in scenes and just soak it all in. And, would wonder to myself, man, how did I wind up here?
Mm-hmm. Well, So what was John Huston like, though?
Well, it was a small independent movie, so it wasn't much money, but he liked the director, a friend of mine, Carol Tannen, and so he agreed to do this low-budget movie. So there was only limited time. His agent said, okay, you could have him for 5 days or 6 days, whatever. So there was a certain amount of, we got tension on time pressure. And oh, by the way, John Huston's showing up today. So, but very nice guy, very, very courtly. No diva there. And once again, I had the lead in this movie with him and Pele, and he was just very gracious. I would get to go and visit him in his trailer and talk about his career. And at the time, he had a book coming out called I guess My Life or an open book. An open book.
Yeah.
And he signed it for me and told me some stories and made me laugh. And it was just great. It was, once again, me looking around saying, boy, how did I wind up here?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not putting myself down. I just, I did, as I said, I didn't come to California to be an actor, and yet several years later, here I am sitting across the table from John Huston, filming a scene that they're paying me to be there for.
Yeah.
So I appreciated the wonder of it.
Yeah, I saw the movie for the first time recently on YouTube. I remember as a kid I saw it on the shelf at a video store I went to, but for some reason I never had a desire to rent it then. But I saw it. It's a cute little movie.
Yeah, it's a family soccer movie, right?
Yeah.
And there's a market for that. And it was a sweet little story, but not a blockbuster.
No.
Yeah.
Then comes one of my all-time favorite movies, Night of the Comet.
Yeah, that's as you say, a cult movie.
Yes. How did you get so lucky with that movie?
Let's see, how did I get that movie? I had, a lot of it, getting work is who do you know socially, right, or you met through friends or whatever, and the people who produced that movie, they're two guys, and they were friends of a former roommate of mine, so I had met them socially previously, and when this came around, I got called in, met the director, Tom Eberhardt, and landed the part. And Tom and I have been friends ever since, so
yeah.
So that happened, just come in and audition. I actually, years before, came in to audition for Luke Skywalker when Lucas was auditioning for that part. And that's one science fiction movie I wish I had gotten. Not that I didn't wish I had gotten Night of the Comet. I did. It was a good experience, and I wound up making a lifetime friend with Tom. So.
Yeah, to me, Tom Eberhard is a genius who's never gotten the respect he deserves.
Well, he's pretty darn good. I mean, he's technically he knows it inside and out because he was an editor and all that as well. But he knows the story inside and out. So he's really what you would call a journeyman filmmaker.
Yes, he is.
Easily could have, things had swung this way or the other. He'd be up there with Lucas and those other guys. But he still had a really good career. I mean, he went on to make a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm. He sure did. And I've gotten to know Kathy Stewart and Kelly Maroney the last few years through conventions, and I've interviewed both of them and stuff. Just the most delightful ladies in the world.
Yeah.
I
had never run across them in a long
Yeah, they do lots of screenings and conventions for that movie and stuff. Robert Beltram doesn't participate, but he should. He does like the Star Trek conventions instead. But
Oh yeah, well,
yeah,
you go where the money is.
yeah, but yeah, was Jeffrey Lewis and Mary Wardoff good to work with?
Jeff was a blast. I wish he was still around, but just a real solid, funny guy. I mean, it's fun to be around, and one of the great character actors. And Mary was pleasant, but I didn't have much to do with her, so
Mm-hmm.
hey, how you doing? But yeah, Jeff was a hoot. Just a funny guy,
Yeah.
funny in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a movie with just full of goofy camp fun, and there's also a real poignant message in there too. It seems that if you take your life for granted, it could all be over tomorrow.
Right.
Which is great, which is a great message and stuff.
Yep.
And Andrew Lane and Wayne Crawford, you worked with them again on Jake Speed.
Right. They were the producers who brought me in on. Andy was a friend of my roommate, and that's how we got in to Night of the Comet. And then Jake Speed came around, and Andy directed that, as I recall.
Yeah.
And like I say, it helps to know people.
Yeah.
And, if they like your work and you show up on time and don't cause any trouble, they'll use you again and again.
Mm-hmm. I like that movie too. Those guys were geniuses.
Well, I don't know. Does Jake Speed make it to these conventions or
no? But it's underrated.
Yeah. Well, you're a buff. You're a movie buff, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you continued working. You were on Knots Landing, and then what happened? Did the roles just stop, and you decided to go into art?
I did Knots Landing for a couple of years, but that show pretty much ended by the time my character was out of it. Mm-hmm. I think there was another year left or whatever. And then I continued to do work in Hollywood, get parts. I did like 3 Hill Street Blues and Murder, She Wrote, and all those Dallas, all those shows that were popular back then, and still and did some TV commercials and whatever will pay the rent. But after I grew out of a certain category and got it more into fathers and that kind of thing, for some reason, whether it was my look or whatever, the parts became less and less interesting, and the amount of hassle and groveling it took to get those parts. Eventually, I said to myself, this isn't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't worth the effort to drive down to LA and grovel for something that's just not interesting. So at one point I said, okay, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. I'll still do theater and stuff. And somebody wants to hire me, great. But if they don't, then that's fine by me. I had a great run, a great time, made some decent money, and met some interesting people. If it had lasted longer, that would have been great. But like I say, fate and destiny are a big part of this. And, fate brought it to me, and then fate said, "Okay, you've had your run."
Mm-hmm. So you don't act at all anymore.
No, I've done some acting here where I live in Ohio, California. I've done acting here, and they've got a terrific local theater here, and there was a little independent theater I was involved with, like the one I was involved with in Los Angeles, that did interesting new work, and
Yeah.
Wound up got to play the Jimmy Stewart character who I had worked with, 35 years earlier, 40 years earlier.
But do you have an art gallery?
No, I don't have one, but part of what I started to do once I stopped pursuing Hollywood, I still wanted to be creative, and I was like, once again, just drawn to making things. So I started what's called doing this found object assemblage art. And after I'd done it for a while, I wound up, since then, I've had 7 or 8 shows of my stuff and have sold some of it. Jason Segel, who lives here in Ojai, bought 3 of my things, and I'm going to have a show at the Ventura Art Museum with a fellow artist, Carlos Grasso, next June through August in Ventura at the Ventura Art Museum. So
Oh, great.
if you're in the neighborhood, drop on by and get to see my artwork, or you can go to my website too. I think you have that information.
Yeah, I saw the website, and it looks great what you're doing, I have to say. Looks really good. I don't know anything about art, but it looks good.
Well, it's kind of odd what I do, but people seem to like it. A lot of it has a sense of humor, and it keeps me from, losing it. You got to have a creative outlet, and I write too. I've written a lot of stuff, so I'm a published playwright with Samuel French Company, which is
Ooh.
one of the biggest. So writing is a great release for me, and doing this artwork is as well. And once in a while, I'll do something on stage. So.
Wow, it sounds like you're really happy with where you are right now.
Well, yeah. I wish I had a couple $1 million in the bank, but other than that,
We all want that.
I've got a terrific wife who, still talks to me, and I live in a beautiful community that didn't burn down last winter, thankfully, but almost did. And great friends. I got a big family, 7 brothers and sisters, so I'm still walking on 2 feet, and it's all good. And who knows? Someone could call and say, "Hey, we remember you from such and such. You want to do a movie?" Never know. Never know what's coming next.
Well,
it's a struggle, like anybody else's life.
Yeah. Well, I hope that happens.
Pay the rent.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it does too.
Yes. Well, Peter, this has been a great honor. I'm glad that you're happy with everything in your life right now and stuff, and I wish you further success.
Well, same to you, Tommy. Thanks for being an enthusiast and keeping these things alive. Really,
My pleasure.
it's nice to have people like you out there.
Oh, my pleasure, sir. God bless you, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Peter Fox. Ain't he a cool dude? Thank you so much, Peter. It's an amazing what you've done with your life, and I'm glad you're happy now and stuff. And I hope people will cast you in the future because you're one of the greats, sir. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!